AI is no longer an abstract threat. It's causing job loss right now, and the headlines, they tell the story.
I remember telling people AI is going to remove everybody's job and AI will remove software engineering jobs first. They looked at me weird. They thought I was making things up, that I was a little bit off the rails. But no, it's true. It's the cat's out of the bag. There's no way to deny it. CNN is talking about it right now.
The Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, on Wednesday released a study that found that artificial intelligence can already replace 11.7% of the U.S. labor market, or as much as 1.2 trillion in wages across finance, healthcare, and professional services. The New York Times recently reported that Amazon is on the cusp of replacing what would be 600,000 warehouse jobs with robots and plans to automate 75% of its operations. CNBC reporting that Salesforce, Walmart, Paramount, UPS, YouTube, and Meta have all announced new rounds of layoffs attributable to AI, with nearly 1 million job cuts nationwide this year. That's the job loss that we can measure. Now consider what some are predicting about the future. Goldman Sachs estimating that 6 to 7% of the U.S. workforce could be displaced due to AI adoption. They do note, however, that the impact may only be transitory because new opportunities created by AI might ultimately put people to work in other capacities. A report by the McKinsey Global Institute finding that
That's not true. There's nothing you cannot teach an AI model with billions of dollars in your pockets and all the contacts you could have as a billionaire. And there's more than proof. You can talk to ChatGPT and it knows almost everything about every science. You can talk to Grok, you can talk to Gemini. Even public models have all this information available to them. They already have every single book, every single science, every human understanding of the world that surrounds us. They already have it. There is no science you can upskill to where learning is going to protect you, because learning is what the AI does better than a human. Not just learning, it can also act faster than a human and not get tired as a human would, and not require a big salary like a human would. So there is going to be a very big problem the way we're heading with AI. And I've talked to this about I've talked to people about this, and most people are very ignorant about it. Sadly, they don't understand what's going to happen. AI will eliminate most jobs, and we need to prepare. We need to have a plan, because if we don't have a plan, we're going to be begging to the governments, to the rich corporations. And if we look at history, and history sometimes repeats itself or it rhymes, so we can see in history that the rich people and the governments haven't been very kind to the working class, haven't been very flexible or understanding of the working class. And that might change, but it is not the case today. It has never been the case in history where governments and rich people have treated people with kindness and fairness, paying them like fair salaries, like fair wages. A salary to begin with is not even fair, because you are making them rich and being paid a fraction of what you're worth, the value you're providing. So this is probably going to be worse than what we have currently in our economic system.
AI could displace 40% of American jobs due to automation by 2030. That analysis found that robots and AI agents could automate more than half of U.S. work hours, both manual and cognitive, using technology that's available today if companies redesigned how they'll do things in the future. The World Economic Forum projecting that 92 million jobs worldwide may be displaced by 2030. Ford's CEO saying that AI could replace half of all white-collar workers there. NYU professor Scott Galloway predicting that AI will hit middle management first, noting that 6% dropped in managers at public companies since 2022. So here we are, AI eliminating jobs, more automation coming. If millions of people lose work, how will they support themselves? This is where an idea from the 2020 presidential campaign returns to the conversation. Universal Basic Income, or UBI. The concept, pretty straightforward. Every American adult would receive a set check each month. For Cook County, Illinois, which includes Chicago, this concept just became reality. The Cook County Board of Commissioners unanimously approved its 2026 budget proposal just this month. It includes $7.5 million for a guaranteed basic income program. Commissioners approved it after the success of a pilot program where the county provided $500 a month to 3,200 households over 2 years. Survey findings based on that pilot revealed that 94% of the program recipients used the funds to address financial emergencies. 75% reported feeling more financially secure. 70% said that the program had a positive impact on mental health. Of course, there's the question of how do you pay for it? In the case of Cook County, as a result of the decrease in commercial real estate values, everybody's property taxes are now sky high. In Chicago, rising 16
Why do people need to lose their homes? Because
values, everybody's property taxes. Of course, there's the question of how do you pay for it? In the case of Cook County, as a result of the decrease in commercial real estate values,
why do people need to lose or pay for commercial real estate values going down? Why is that? Why are we responsible for bailing out rich corporations? This is something that doesn't make any sense.
everybody's property taxes are now sky high. In Chicago, rising 16.7%, the largest jump in at least 30 years. West Garfield Park saw an increase of 133%, North Lawndale 99%, Englewood 82.5%. And there's pushback from the
How are you supposed to live when you have to pay 20% property tax? That makes absolutely no sense.
9%, Englewood 82.5%. And there's pushback from the Illinois Policy Institute, which cites concerns about workforce and income effects. Quote, Cook County is making its guaranteed income pilot permanent and committing millions to a failed strategy already shown to leave people with less work experience and lower earnings. Back in 2020, it was presidential candidate.
And this is just bad rich people saying that they don't want to lose the working class, and that is not true. This has been proven that you can actually end up living a more fulfilling life. You can end up pursuing your passions, pursuing your businesses, your goals, your skills, improving your skills, finding better jobs, finding better opportunities when you have more money. So this is a distorted point of view, probably biased, pushing the agenda of keeping the status quo.
With less work experience and lower earnings. Back in 2020, it was presidential candidate Andrew Yang who called his version of universal basic income the freedom dividend, specifically $1,000 per month, no work requirements, no means testing.
Medicare for all. That sounds fair. Europe is already has this, and people report right now America is not even number one in healthcare with the system that we have. Even though we're paying massive amounts of money, we're not number one in healthcare. Number one in healthcare is Europe, and their system is free for everybody. So let that sink in. So we definitely need to fix this because there's a lot of working class folks that need vision. Think about it. Eyes, something you need to live, and teeth, dental is also something you need to live, and hearing is also something you need to live, and it's basically optional, and a lot of people can't afford it. So human-centered capitalism, that makes so much sense. That would be fantastic if suddenly the people in charge were to be play nice with people who are the ones who are making them rich. That would be fantastic. But problem is that history has no records of this ever happening. It would be fun to watch how this would suddenly be the case, when it's very difficult to see in the past of humanity where humans, rich humans treated fairly poor humans.
Direct payment to help people cover bills, weather economic transitions, and adapt to a job market reshaped by technology. Andrew Yang joins me now. Andrew, nice to have you back. I pulled a profile of you from 2018 when you were just on the cusp of announcing your candidacy. Here's a quote that you provided to the author of the piece. You said, "Need is self-driving cars to destabilize society. In a few years, we're going to have 1 million truck drivers out of work who are 94% male with an average level of education of high school or 1 year of college. That one innovation will be enough to create riots in the street. And we're about to do the same thing to retail workers, call center workers, fast food workers, insurance companies, and accounting firms." It was 7 years ago. How is that quote aging?
It's aging very, very well, unfortunately, Michael. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. 44% of American jobs are either repetitive manual or repetitive cognitive, and thus could be subject to AI and automation. And we're seeing that unfold right now. It's heartbreaking for me because I feel we could be doing much, much more for the millions of Americans who are going to be displaced.
I know that Cook County is just a microcosm, but I'm sure in hearing about their experience.
He said it, and there is a lot of professionals in the industry, not just me, in the software industry, that are calling this out. I can show on more videos, I can show you guys how AI is completely destroying the software engineering field. And think about it, that software engineering is the field that employs almost every science. It employs reasoning, it employs learning, it employs prediction, it employs adaptability, it employs basically all of humans' cognitions, both the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain. And if AI can do it not just cheaper, faster, and not needing rests, then we have a serious problem, because now we are politically not needed. And in the past, governments and rich people needed us so they could continue to be rich, so we could continue to work for them. But now they don't need us. And in the past, they have treated us very unfairly. And suddenly there's talks that they might not treat us unfairly anymore. That sounds great, but it's a bit hard to believe because of the history of humanity and the way things have been. But hey, the world changes. Things are crazy, but it's just most people that I've seen on YouTube and on the comment section, I find it very difficult to believe. And a lot of industry experts also agree that this is very difficult to believe, that suddenly there's going to be a fair treatment of the working class. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section.
People are wondering, okay, Andrew Yang, we're on board. Now we get it. What you saw 7 years ago, the rest of us see. But how do we pay for it?
The CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, just raised his hand and said, "You guys should tax us, the AI firms." And right now, hundreds of billions of dollars of value is being realized by Anthropic and these other firms on the back, by the way, of data that we all provided unwittingly and didn't agree to it. But it's trillions of dollars of value, and most Americans aren't going to see a dime of that. So if you have the CEO of an AI company saying,
look at his face, he's looking at him like please don't go deeper into that topic, because there's a massive problem where basically all of the property, intellectual property of millions of people has been stepped on and not respected and abused for the purpose of making the AI models and helping the interests of the wealthy. So this has caused that this situation where there's a massive debit that will probably never be repaid, and he's mentioning that, hey, you guys owe us money, so you should start paying, and let's see what happens.
You should tax us. I think we should take him up on his suggestion. And if you have an AI tax or a compute tax, you get to very big numbers very quickly.
So they're now referring to the Magnificent Seven, or the S&P 493 instead of the S&P 500. Put a graph on the screen right now for the benefit of everybody at home. The Washington Post had this coverage. The point was that if you strip out Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Tesla, then the market's doing okay, but the market surely isn't doing what it's doing when you include those seven. And I guess my question for Andrew Yang is, what happens if that is a bubble and it bursts? Then how do you fund the freedom dividend or universal basic income?
This is basically coming up with
Well, right now,
another possible excuse to not treat working class fairly, blaming it on the AI bubble. And the AI bubble is a real topic that is actually happening, but it's more complicated than that. And people are not the culprit. And basically, the wealthy people are the ones who are to blame for the spending. They've been investing a lot of money, hundreds of trillions of dollars to be exact, on AI, and actually they are not being profitable at this point, but their companies are very profitable and they can very much sustain this money loss. So there's no reason for them to not be able to pay taxes when they're still are some of the most profitable companies in the planet, and they have massive income. But sadly, history repeats itself, and we keep protecting these people and never taxing them and never holding them accountable for their decisions, and always taxing the working class, always taxing the people who keep them rich. But hopefully now this is going to change, and they're going to see that somehow they have to play fair, even if they have no accountability and no reason to change and no incentive to change, which is very worrisome.
a lot of the value that's getting generated is being hoarded or held by a handful of companies, Michael. I think you're right that we should be trying to spread those value gains more broadly across the market and to people. Right now, US GDP is around $85,000 per person and trending upward, because regardless of whether AI as an investment thesis is a little bit overhyped, you know that it's going to have a positive effect on GDP. So if you have 85,000 ahead, then having $12,000 a year, which I proposed in 2020, actually seems pretty modest and reasonable. And that's going to be affordable regardless of what happens with some of these firms' valuations.
As you envisioned the freedom dividend, there was no means testing. Everybody gets a check, whatever that amount might be. What becomes of other federal assistance?
And here's another problem. If everybody gets that check and the wealthy people start to increase the prices higher, how are we going to control that to not lose everything we have as the working class? We definitely need a plan. We should figure out a way to produce our own food, our own fuel, and our own energy, so that way we don't have to depend so much on the wealthy people, because sadly that relationship hasn't been in the past very positive as we would have wanted it to be.
Well, I intended the freedom dividend to try and clear up and clean up some of the bureaucracy and administration that's currently being applied. I spoke to a disabled woman in Iowa during the campaign, and she said she wants to volunteer in her community, but she's afraid to because she's afraid to lose her disability payments. And I think most people looking at that situation would say, well, that's not right. Like, the intention is not to force this woman to stay home. So if you can put this into people's hands and say, look, this is going to be yours regardless, then it empowers them to go out and hopefully build things, start businesses, and participate in their community. Capitalism does not work.
That is definitely the dream. That is the dream that everybody has, where you can actually build things, start businesses, start doing something you actually love instead of resigning to working for a company that just doesn't fulfill your real goals, your real interests.
Work very well if people don't have money to spend.
So is this capitalism that we're talking about? It sounds rather socialist, doesn't it? That everybody's going to get a check and therefore they won't have to go to work because all these jobs are being taken by AI initially.
It's capitalism where income doesn't start at zero, Michael, and you have a consumer economy that is predicated on folks being able to participate. And if you shove millions of Americans to the curb via AI and automation, then they're not going to be able to go to their local business. They're not going to be able to meaningfully grow the economy. They're going to stay at home. They're going to end up going down internet rabbit holes and getting radicalized in many cases. So that's a loss. And so if we can get people connected in various ways, that's the direction we should go. And I'm not someone who thinks that this money is a silver bullet that's going to do the trick. I mean, you still have to convey structure, purpose, fulfillment, community, all of the rest of it that jobs traditionally have provided.
Andrew, a final question. There's an academic in the on deck circle, and I'll bet you've read the stories. It's Dr. Yampolsky, who's been quoted as saying that he thinks in 5 years we'll have 99% unemployment. I'll see in a moment whether he's going to stand.
That's probably going to be true, because the goal is to create an AGI that is similar to a god, because whoever does this first is going to win the AI race, and it's going to cement power. It's going to consolidate power across the entire planet. So China and the US are racing for that. And there's the goal of the AI models has never been just to serve humans. It's been to replace them, because first, most humans don't like using AI, other than weirdos like me who are future oriented and like to improve things and innovate and learn. But most people, they're not using it, and it's not profitable, so they don't plan on basing their business model on users. They plan on replacing the users, replacing the jobs, replacing everything. And it's going to be basically 99% unemployment, like he just said. And it's not going to change. You cannot learn something that AI cannot learn. You cannot beat AI. You cannot be faster than AI. You cannot outsmart AI. That's not going to happen.
Outsmarting AI by just learning something it can't do isn't realistic long term. AI learns fast. Whatever niche.
Exactly.
Mostly hype, yeah, but there's a sliver of truth. AI struggles with uniquely human stuff, like emotional intuition or creative leaps that aren't just remixing data. If you focus on blending those with tech skills, like ethics in AI or storytelling through design, you can stay ahead. It's less about outsmarting AI and more about playing to strengths it can't fake. Want me to dig into specific skills that might hold up?
You just mentioned that there's nothing a human can't learn. There's nothing a human can learn that an AI can't learn. And now you just mentioned that emotions are something that AI cannot learn, when an emotion is basically an algorithm. It is basically something that can be predicted mathematically and can be learned and thought, and it's not that complex.
Fair point. Humans can learn almost anything, and AI can mimic a lot of it, emotions included, if you boil them down to algorithms. Predicting feelings mathematically? Sure, that's doable to an extent. But true emotional depth, like the messy, subjective way we process loss or joy, AI can simulate, not feel. It's like a recipe versus tasting the dish. You can program a response to grief, but it's not the same as living it. Still, I get you. AI's creeping close on even that. What do you think humans have left that's truly unlearnable?
I understand that you can say that we can upskill into emotional traits and emotional understanding, unique emotions, but what is the value of selling emotions? Can you truly sell your emotions? Would somebody pay for your emotions? I don't see that as a value, as a efficient market, where I'm going to buy somebody's emotions or sell their emotions, or that that's not how the market works. So upskilling into emotions, that doesn't make sense to
Well,
me.
no, you're right. Nobody's out there literally buying your emotions like they're crypto tokens. But it's not about selling feelings raw. It's about using them. Empathy, intuition, trust. Those are what people pay for in roles like therapy, leadership, or negotiation. AI can analyze patterns, but clients want a human who gets them, not a bot spitting out responses. It's indirect, like how a chef sells a meal, not just ingredients. That human touch keeps markets inefficient in a way that's our edge. Does that land better, or am I still missing your angle?
Okay, so if people are going to basically add a human touch, that is something a consumer would want. The problem is that the wealthy class don't really care much about the human touch. They just want cheap labor or free labor. So most jobs are going to cease to exist and be passed on to AI, because the wealthy people are saying it in the news. They don't want humans. They don't want to pay for humans because AI is number one, faster, cheaper, better at jobs than humans in most jobs that normal humans work every day. And this funny thing about emotions and selling emotions and all that stuff, even AI can do YouTube videos and generate amazing YouTube videos. So that doesn't seem like something that's stable or safe as an income.
Yeah, that's a grim take, but not entirely off. Wealthy folks chasing profit often ditch the human touch for AI's speed and cost. It's already happening in factories, call centers, even content farms. If most jobs are just tasks, AI wins on efficiency. Even YouTube's getting flooded with slick AI generated vids. So yeah, leaning on selling emotions for income feels shaky. But here's the catch. Some markets, like high stakes deals, luxury services, or creative niches, still crave human authenticity. Think bespoke art, elite consulting, or therapy for the ultra rich. They pay for status and trust, not just output. It's not stable for everyone, though. Most people won't pivot there. So, what's your plan if AI's eating up those normal jobs? Got something in mind?
And that's exactly the problem. Those jobs are a very small number. And we're talking about vast unemployment. We're talking about 99% unemployment in the entire planet, thanks to the wealthy people choosing AI because it's faster, cheaper, better than human labor. Why would a human stay employed if there's such a small number of jobs available only for the 1% of the population who are the wealthy? That doesn't seem like a fair number of jobs for everybody. It seems very grim and unsafe. What I'm saying is that we, the working class, need to have a plan to where we produce our own food, our own energy, our own homes. Else, we are going to be very bad off if we don't.
You're hitting on the real nightmare here. Mass unemployment isn't just likely, it's already starting. If AI scales and the wealthy keep prioritizing profit over people, yeah, 99% jobless feels dystopian but plausible. The human touch jobs, they're crumbs, not a crust, barely enough for the elite to play at humanity while the rest scramble. Fairness isn't even in the equation when capital calls the shots. Self-reliance, like growing food, generating power, building homes, is honestly the sanest fallback. Communities pulling that off with off-grid tech, co-ops, or bartering systems could dodge the worst. It's grim, no sugarcoating, but planning your own basics now, that's not just prep, that's survival. You thinking local networks or something bigger?
This is a YouTube video that I'm making, but the problem is that I don't know like if I'm gonna reach enough people, and if we can actually create a community where we can disconnect ourselves from the system, from the economic system.
It's risky, yeah. YouTube's a lottery unless you crack the algorithm or go viral. And even then, reaching enough folks to spark a real disconnect is a long shot. But don't count it out. People are starving for this talk. Look at off-grid forums, permaculture subs, or tiny home vids already pulling thousands. If your angle's raw, urgent, and practical, like step-by-step on growing food or rigging solar, you might hook the desperate ones. Start small, collab with niche creators, push X for real-time buzz, maybe a Discord for meetups. Building a community is less about fame and more about trust. Get 10 solid people sharing tips, and it snowballs. Worried about traction? Or is it the logistics of actually pulling off that disconnect?
That was Grok.
And by that prediction, how bad does Andrew Yang think it will get undeterred?
No, it's going to get bad. I certainly don't think 99% bad, but if you use this 44% of jobs subject to automation as a benchmark, and then you figure that we're going to churn through, let's say, half of those jobs over the next 10 years or so, that puts you at 30 to 40 million jobs that get eliminated. And that would be devastating. That would be catastrophic for many, many communities. And I think that's a realistic place to think we're going to be heading.
Andrew Yang, thank you for being here. Perfect guest on this day.
Thanks for having me, Michael. Wish I had better news. But
Go to my website. Hopefully so. Go to my website. It's Smirconish.com. This is today's poll question. Is guaranteed income a realistic remedy for job loss due to AI? Go vote at Smirconish.com.
Looking for an easier way